Hi, people of God. If you can see me, God bless you. Let's talk about ancestors, spirits, entities, and the idea of energy feeding or farming. Let's look into it. So let's start off with, who is an ancestor? An ancestor is a relative from your past generation, like your grandparents, great-grandparents, and beyond. In your lineage, it's the people in your family tree who existed long before you. I see a lot of people say Jesus is an ancestor. Jesus is not your ancestor. Jesus is not your dead ancestor. He's the risen Messiah, the Lord, not simply an exalted forefather. Okay? So what are spirits or entities? I hear you ask. So the truth is, different cultures have their own categories of spirits and entities that interact with humans. For example, jinn in Islamic tradition, ancestors and spirits in many indigenous traditions. There is pretas, I really don't care for the pronunciation of these entities, but you find that in the Buddhist tradition, yaksha and other supernatural beings. You'd find these ones in South Asian traditions. Demons, find them more in Christian tradition, in the Abrahamic tradition. Fairies, European folklore. Archons, you find them in the Gnostic cosmologies. And other astral beings in Western occultic tradition. These aren't interchangeable. We're going to get to it. Their origins and characters have different meanings to the people that give them meaning. Okay? So they're very different. But there are spirits and entities. And there are much more other kingdoms, and I couldn't quite find all of them, but this is just to name a few. There's an interesting question that I have in my mind, and it's why so many cultures independently develop these concepts, entities, spirits of non-human intelligence that interact with human life. They leave the spirit of God and create their own things. It's a deep conversation, one that we kind of have right now, but I was just thinking aloud. Let's move on. So what about the energy feeding or farming idea? I hear you ask. Okay. So consciousness, which is existence, produces emotional energy. And particularly intense emotions, particularly negative intense emotions, are consumed by that non-physical being. So they somehow consume and exploit it. So imagine that something created causes fear, attention, reaction, more attention, more fear, more reaction. Whether or not there's an external entity involved, the pattern itself becomes self-sustaining. Even abusive relationships operate in this way. A cult can function this way. It's a cycle. It's the energy you pour in. An addiction functions in this way too. You're feeding it and you're giving it life. Your own thoughts, when you think negative, you're giving it energy. One of TikTok's favorites, which is literally just told you all how the system operates. In the show, 20 Christian, one witch, or one new age or whatever. She told you, she said her ancestors did big things. And they collected this energy. This person brings their energy, the person brings their energy, and they all put it together and they give it life. That's how it works. It's how abusive relationships function as well. The entity in the narcissist is feeding off your life force, draining the life out of you. That's why they thrive when you're down. And the truth is, something is always consuming something in this realm. Life survives by consuming life. Plant consumes sunlight and nutrients. Animals consume other animals and plants. Humans consume plants and animals. The culture consumes your attention. You feed it. Institution consumes your labor, your life force. Predators consume their prey. And a psychologically destructive pattern can consume your attention, your time, your relationship, your money, your emotional labor and capacity. So consciousness, you give it, these entities, these spirits, you give it life. Consciousness is existence. What we're supposed to do, we're created for worship. Humans are created for worship. So if you're not worshiping God, you're worshiping something else. Clock it. You're supposed to worship God. That's why the more you surrender to God, the more you glow, the more powerful you become. He gives back to you. These entities don't give back to you. You think they're giving you something, but each thing they give you is a snare on your soul. So that's why they need to keep feeding it, to keep giving it life. The negative energy is what they feed on. So they cause suffering and exploit suffering and other negative emotions. That's where you get archons, demons, astral parasites, ancient traditional spirits, and the Lush concept. It's really at the heart of it. These are created entities. So whatever repeatedly captures your attention and extracts your emotional energy has to some degree become an ecosystem that feeds on you.